Hi, okay, so let's hop into this. This is substances and sex, and specifically I'm going through a harm reduction approach to explaining how mechanics are affected. Um, and my overview is going to be consent, stimulants, depressants, psychedelics, and then sextasy, and then some resources at the end. The first thing I want to bring up is the fact that consent is extremely important, and a lot of substances may make it a little bit more difficult to understand kind of where you're at, which means that consent is even more important. Um, just a quick little overview, make sure that your consent is affirmative, which means only a yes is a yes, informed, continuous, freely given, conscious, and essential. It's essential because you're literally building, like, that's like the first step in being able to have happy and healthy relationships with others. Moving on, I am talking about boundaries. Sorry, I don't know if this can go out. Anyway, okay. Boundaries. So the first thing is, like, there's physical, emotional, and mental boundaries that you want to think about. So you can see a bunch of questions here, but I would recommend just sitting down and having a conversation with yourself about what those are. And then moving on is harm reduction. It's really important to take a harm reduction approach to anything that involves substances, mostly because it does change an altered state. It does have an altered state of mind. So you do have to make sure to continuously ask for consent and be very clear about what you're doing. And specifically, I wanted to explain kind of how drugs and sex work biologically. And so that they take on, they usually impact different hormones or neurotransmitters. And you can see them here under lust, attraction, and attachment. And and then here you can also see different ways that those are gotten through. So you see, for example, lust can go through the like sex hormones, versus attraction goes through dopamine, and attachment can go through oxytocin, or that other one that I just am not going to pretend I know how to say. And then this is also something to kind of think about. A lot of cycles of abuse happen through the overuse of things that will emphasize or like will affect those neurotransmitters. So this is kind of the direction that people can take when they are taking too many substances or doing too much in like a negative way, whereas a more positive way would be like, you know, taking it from like an approach of, I'm going to be safer and I'm going to be very clear with my boundaries, both with the substances and with the other people. And I think one of the things that's really important is, one of the California laws is that you can't consent under the influence of any substance. And I do support that, as that is usually meant to support survivors. But of course, like, that's why we're taking a harm reduction approach. You can't take a harm removal approach. So safer sex, sometimes it's hard for people to like correctly use condoms and other items, or they just won't want to or won't think of it. So it's easier to not engage in safer sex activities when you're taking substances and having sex. And then I think one of the other things, if you're feeling like you might be stressed out or worried about it, is to just kind of like think about what your conceptions of sex even are. Like, if you have the idea that sex has to be a penis and a vagina, you know, for example, then that may not be what you're trying to do, and that might not be what you're able to do during that time. Moving on. So I'm going to start off with, I guess, street drugs, which are just drugs that have other names and may not be as easy to access. So first one would be stimulants. Examples of stimulants include cocaine, amphetamines, nicotine, caffeine, and pretty much it heightens your it stimulates like your heart rate and your blood pressure, decreases appetite, and it could cause anxiety or paranoia. Some people say that they cause libido enhancing effects, while other people say that they reduce their sex drive. So it really does depend on the person and the substances and how those interact with each other.